a guy who should be sleepier than he is, Senator Doug Beck. We always have Flat Doug behind here. If you look at the very corner, now we have it's like you just came off the wall. We have actual 3D all the way live, Doug. Thank you for making the time.
Appreciate it, and hopefully Flat Doug and myself don't get in a fight today because sometimes we don't agree with each other.
Well, often Flat Doug always agrees with me. Me and him see eye to eye all the time. All right, let's start. So it's almost. I don't want to say bizarre, but it feels weird that you've had this long of a fight over IP reform, something that passed out of the Senate last year. A group of the majority, kind of a minority inside the majority, decided this was the hill they were going to die on. They were down in January. So what are we? We're February 20th.
Yeah.
And the first thing that was done, I guess, was the SJR, which sends to the ballot a proposal to change the IP process. Now, it seemed like there was a pretty reasonable deal cut. And the reasonable deal went from the SJR that came out of committee, Senator Coleman, she had where you had the concurrent majorities, which would be what passes in 4 or 5 of the congressional districts.
Yep, 5.
So, and it has to get 50% plus one of the votes. Currently, you have to get 50% plus one of the vote.
Right.
And then she added a whole bunch of other, you called very ballot candy. So what was the proposal? It's been on the floor for, I guess, 2 weeks now.
Well, it's changed quite a bit because I think over the last 20 hours, there was 3 different floor subs out there, but and it was adjusting the ballot candy that was on it that the senator actually, when we first had the conversation last week, she mentioned, she said, yeah, this SJR is loaded with ballot candy. And it was, and it's a lot of things that are currently in law that are already taking place, and we don't need them. And then there was a lot of other things in there. You couldn't do an IP to raise, taxes on food. Now, first off, I don't know who's going to run that ballot initiative, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to be successful to raise taxes on food across the state, right? On everybody. So that was in there. There was.
Well, let's just act like if we see Helen Fitzgerald's in South County right now, which Schmidt always says it's not in South County, but I always think, Helen's is kind of South County, the gateway to South County, maybe. Let's just pretend
it's South County.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
I went to school with them, by the way, but Cyber, so yeah.
Oh, really? Well, those will be stories for part 2. We'll have to tell later. So let's if we're at Helen Fitzgerald's, what the point is, the Republicans, they talk about a conservative, but it's not a conservative priority or a liberal priority.
Yeah.
In California, they don't want you to be able to take things to the voters because Republicans can't get a majority in the legislature, so they can't pass things. So they go around the legislature.
Right.
The California, the Democrats hate it. In Missouri, the Democrats can't get a majority. So they go around the legislature and pass things at the ballot box, right? It's not liberal or conservative. It's just majority versus minority. And right now, you can put something in the Constitution with 50% plus one. The Republicans want to make it harder, but they think the voters might not vote for that, right? Yeah. So they put a bunch of other things in there. All these things that sound good don't do much, right? Some lobbyist gifts, something about foreign-owned land or financing campaigns. But it's just a bunch of bullshit attached to it, right? Essentially.
Agreed. And that was the issue that we had with it is if you want to bring this to the people, and if the people want to take away one person, one vote, this is what this would do. My vote wouldn't be the same as yours, depending on where you live. And that's a problem. Everybody's vote should be the same. Everybody's vote should be.
But the way they went about it is they wanted to kind of, I don't want to say trick, but essentially, they wanted to talk about a bunch of innocuous things that don't really matter over here.
Right.
And then they wanted to slip in the change in the IP process over there. Now, I saw Democrats have a problem with that. They said it was ballot candy. I mean, I think any common sense person would say, you're right.
On things that are currently like law, and that's what it is. Citizens can't vote here. But we're going to do that. But yeah, non-citizens, excuse me, non-citizens.
But the one
non-citizens can't vote here.
My meter and I got a bullshit button there was, I remember Clean Missouri, which I think was probably well-intentioned on some levels. It wanted to essentially change how the state draws legislative districts to advantage Democrats. But they put a bunch of bullshit around, like they won't let your staff go get a job. Just a bunch of silly things that would distract folks from what they really wanted to do. It was a very similar tactic the Republicans tried right now. But I didn't hear Democrats having a problem with it when it was Clean Missouri.
So And you and I probably disagree on this a little bit. I don't consider that ballot candidate because those are all things that currently weren't in the law. I don't necessarily agree with
the
Clean
lobbyist
Missouri.
gift thing was
Yeah.
something they wanted to put on there,
Yeah.
so folks would vote for that, and they would do this new way to draw maps.
So I was a zero guy when I got here. One of the things my wife told me to do.
I mean, you and I have always talked straight.
Yeah, I am. I'm being.
The
I'm
truth
being
is,
straight
I
with you.
think their Clean Missouri was done specifically to have something over here to distract folks, and then get their gerrymander they want to do it. And I thought it was great politics. I thought it was a very well done thing. I was shocked the courts let them do it.
Yeah.
So the court said that's legal. So the Republicans essentially just maybe took and injected some steroids into the Clean Missouri plan with their IP initiative.
Yeah, and I think I disagree with you on that basis.
But there's a decent argument there, right?
Well,
am I wrong? Am I just totally wrong?
I don't, and we can have this conversation. I mean, it could take a little while, but I also know that the gerrymandering, the part that you were talking about, that was to give us advantage. I think it actually sparks better conversations and better elections when you have two opposing ideas coming together. But that being
they weren't
said,
doing it to like more Republicans. Right?
but we weren't going to take over either with it. We weren't taking over the state.
But I mean, it was something. I mean, by all just like by all common sense, everything you said about the ballot candy on this the last 3 weeks has been true. This was a thing engaged by liberals with the goal of electing more Democrats, which is a fine goal if you're a Democrat. Republicans would do the same damn thing. I always said if it was them, they definitely were taking Clean Missouri's intentions. The point of it was to draw districts that would elect more Democrats. Yeah, right or wrong, that's what it was.
And maybe that's the case. I don't know. I think they wanted to have better elections that aren't gerrymandered to the point to where we have 85%. There was a lot of Democrats who were against this too, right? We have some of these 85% districts that you're going to only have the primary after August. There's nothing. So you're not getting, you'll get an exchange of ideas, but they're going to be really close ideas.
By and large, it was Democrats and liberal groups pushing something, and Republicans and conservatives pushing back on it.
So I was in the House. I do know this, and there was a lot of my Democratic colleagues that didn't like it. Sure. That were in these districts that were already, and actually they kind of jumped me a few times because I would say this is going to give our elections a little bit more balance. I come from a district, as you know, that can go either way. Depending on the tide, it could be depending on national issues. So in order to win, I have to be there and be present and present ideas. Yep. Mary's original intention was to do that more, have more contested seats across the state.
But you and I just speak plainly. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we at Helen's, this was something that was concocted by Democrats with the hope that however you get there, it would elect more Democrats, rightly, wrongly, fairly, unfairly. They weren't doing it to help Republicans. Nobody does things for the good of God and country. Everybody has their self-interested reason, and I think they did. And I don't see a problem with that. Look, they took advantage of the existing law. Now the Republicans came back and kind of did the same thing to them the next election.
With cleaner, dirtier Missouri.
Of course, they just did the same thing and changed the words around.
I think they actually even had the citizen language in there. You had to be a citizen to vote or whatever. Non-citizens couldn't vote. I think was possibly put in there.
I don't recall, but on this, I think you're totally right. It was the same thing, but it was done with things to distract you from what they wanted to do. Yeah. Let me ask you this.
But let me be one last thing on clean. Now, if I recall, that was a bipartisan effort. There was some Republicans that were involved with Clean Missouri. I think Senator Rob Shop. I think he might have been involved with it, and some other folks were involved because they wanted to see some more contested seats, more balance within the thing. So I mean, we can agree to disagree or however you want to say it, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's no longer the law.
I guess because I like Doug so much, and because I have flat Doug here, it's like double team. I'll just agree.
I'm not trying to debate your
filibuster. In fantasy land, there were Republicans. This was a bipartisan thing. This was the very Republican-led Clean Missouri. But on this, don't you think, in your gut, it's a little too easy to change the Constitution?
I don't. And that's the part that I think people are missing out on, because I was there when we did the referendum.
Is it too easy to override a statute passed by the voters for the legislature?
It's not. There's a lot of work that we had to do when we overturned the right to work law that they tried to pass.
Let me ask you this. You overturned that law. Let's say Labor got together and said right to work is a statute passed by the voters, and the legislators come back in and overturn that. Is it too easy for them to overturn a statute passed by the voters?
The legislature? Yes. Yeah, 100%.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And if we want to look at different protections in that way, like if some IP passes, they pass something. And that's the reason why we're in the Constitution now anyway, because they've changed so many times that the voters went out and they did it by statute, right?
Is there not a way
they
two
haven't-
reasonable guys like you and
Puppy
Mike
mills would be
Searport
one.
get in a room and say, okay, I don't like it when the voters pass a statute, the legislature can just come in here and overturn it, make that harder. And Mike Searport would say, I don't like it when you can put things in the Constitution with a pretty easy process. Is there not a way you two get a pencil out and come up with making one a little harder and the other a little harder, and both of you shake hands at the end of the day?
I think that could be quite honestly, as long as it's clean and there's no other distortions there. Yeah, that'd be something that could be possibly done. I don't know that we could get that through that body of 34 there, but at the end of the day, I think a person like Mike Searport and myself might be able to work on something.
I think Cindy O'Loughlin just asserted herself today. I think she let this go on. I think you had put up a very spirited fight. And at the end of the day, she just asserted herself and said, I'm the floor leader. Yeah. We're going to bring this to an end. I do believe. I mean, I think the House is going to get this bill of this SJR. I guess you third read it today, right?
No, we've just perfected.
Okay.
First thing has been done in Senate all year so far.
Which is almost
it might get third read on Thursday, I guess.
All the hospitals in the state could be closing soon, but this is whatever you think of the
which by the way was supposed to be the number one priority. From what I heard way back in November was the FRA.
Well, I mean, look, if you're in Justin Brown's district, Phelps County can't stay open if you don't pass this. Yeah. Phelps County can't stay open without the IP process. Let me walk you through this. Do you think there's any? I've kind of just in my old white trash hillbilly gut. I get the sense that the concurrent majority, there is certainly no guarantee that will hold up to a court challenge. Yeah. And matter of fact, folks I know, folks that are pro-life, folks that have litigated on behalf of the pro-life cause in the past, they have said that they don't think this will pass court muster. No. Do you believe that? Do you think some of the folks supporting this really don't want IP reform? Because if a lot of the big donors in this state are not fans of IP reform. Do you think some folks didn't want IP reform, so they made sure that they pass an IP reform that won't actually pass a court challenge? It'll be SEPA 2.0.
Those are probably some good points, what you're saying. I think if it would have had a lot more of the ballot candidate we were talking about earlier, I think that would have made it even more and more unconstitutional.
I thought the same thing, but the on Clean Missouri, the court ruled you can put all these things together. And I honestly, I'm not a lawyer. Obviously, I've broken more laws than I know. But the truth is, I was surprised by that ruling. I thought if you want IP reform, I think that heightened the calls for IP reform. They've set a precedent where they'll let all these things go on one ballot measure. I think there may be. I'm not saying skullduggery. Yeah, I think that they may have given some folks what they wanted, but what they wanted wasn't what they said they wanted.
Yeah, and I don't know that. I mean, that's probably a conversation you'd have to have somebody else. Nobody's told me that personally. I've heard different opinions on this thing. I've heard definitely different opinions on the concurrent majority, that a lot of folks don't think it is unconstitutional to do that, because you're actually putting it. So, what I preferred, it said 55%, or what are they trying to get at? 55, 56, 60. What are they trying to do? Put it out there in plain language so the voters can see it.
We're talking
because they're not going to understand concurrent majority is like, what,
I'm just a simple hillbilly. Yeah. You're a high-ranking St. Louis politician, but right now, you say your vote should count in St. Louis County the same as mine counts in Butler County. Yep. Why does your signature count more on these petition processes in St. Louis County more than mine in Butler County does? No one comes to Butler County getting signatures for these things. You only have to get signatures in 6 of the 8. No one goes to Worth County. No one goes to Scotland County. No one goes up and sees Brian Munslinger in Lewis County. Nobody comes to Hickory Log and Dexter. Yeah. Your signature is worth more than mine. Is that fair?
I don't think it's worth more than yours. I think it's whatever you would decide to do. I think it depends on the issue, right?
If you're going to go to issue, anybody comes out these around. Name me one initiative.
I don't know. Maybe the Hancock Amendment when they did that. I don't know. Or something.
I was in.
Well, actually, that was right. That came through the legislature, didn't it? So it wasn't even. Was that IP?
It was.
It was an IP. Yeah, it was an IP. So
that's why people talk about how liberal IP is. I'm like, well, you mean the Hancock Amendment? You mean concealed carry?
No, I know.
I mean, it's not. It's majority versus minority. But your signature does count more than mine.
So what I'll say is, and I don't want to address. I don't think it does. But a signature is a signature, and they decide. It's about, well, this is
your signature counts more than mine.
No,
our votes count the same now. Under this plan, no, they won't count the same. My vote will count more than yours, frankly, because the 8th district is going to be one that you'd target. That's probably going to. We're a little stubborn. We vote no a lot. But my vote would count more than yours. But right now,
Which might be good in this particular spot to vote no. So maybe that's
yeah. I
that's how we go.
honestly, I think I think it's short-sighted to pass IP reform without making the statutory reform process, which I think we should encourage people to put things in statute instead of the Constitution. Yeah. And I think it should be harder to change a statute passed by the voters. I think those two.
And I think that's the reason. And I think that's the reason why people started putting stuff in the Constitution.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they can't trust the legislature to uphold what the voters want.
The puppy mill thing, like I thought the puppy mill law was
concealed carry, and we may disagree, but the voters voted against it.
I agree. I think it should have been much harder for them to do that. I think the voters should matter. I mean those are common sense things. I agree with you. And
we did offer that last year, and this year we did offer some versions of like 5 years. And I think that might have been on our last the amendments that we offered. And so,
however high you raise the threshold to get on the Constitution, maybe you raise that percentage of the vote you have to get, right? I mean, put the two together and make it more challenging. I think the voters vote. I think putting things in a Constitution, boy, just in my gut feels like it's too easy to change.
Yeah.
The voters enacting policies and statutes feels like it's too hard.
But, for years, they've been asking the legislature to do Medicaid expansion. They didn't do it. Yeah. They finally had to do what they had to do to get it done. Minimum wage, they went statutory, but they haven't messed with it. They tried to on several occasions because I was in the House. They wanted to exempt a whole lot of different folks. But I think what you see is just a general distrust. And that's where I'm going to use some words from the Senator Bill Eigel, that what they were trying to do would empower the swamp even more by taking away the direct democracy of the people of the state. By passing this, it empowers it. If this would pass, it empowers the swamp that he calls the swamp, but the legislature more.
I mean, Senator Eigel's been in elected office for 8 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been in elective office longer than my son's been alive. So if there's still a swamp, whose fault is it?
Well, right? I mean, that's whatever. Apparently, I'm a part of the swamp too. But at the end of the day, we're all playing the thing. But what I'm saying is it elevates politicians to make those decisions. Whereas I think the people can make that decision. We go back to the medical marijuana. There was 3 things on a ballot, and to this day, it amazes me. You got to give the voters credit. They picked the right one. They picked the right one out of the 3 to go forward, and it had to be the constitutional one. The other ones were some grifters and some other things were going on with it. So I think we got to give the voters a chance to do that. I think they would rely less on the IP process if they actually had folks listening to them.
But if you were just designing something, wouldn't you say the right way to do this is the Constitution should be very hard to amend, because that is a lasting document, very hard and hard to change. A statute, if folks want something, I think it should be much easier to get a statute on. And then the legislature, it should be harder for them to mess with. The public's will. There's a way to redo that process that makes sense. It feels like there's a lot of kabuki theater going on right now. And it feels like I'm not even sure the people that are pushing this legislation really believe this will ever be.
And again, and I don't know any of that, and I'm not privy.
All right, let's make a prediction. Kelton runs an illegal sports book. If this actually gets to the ballot,
illegal or illegal?
It's illegal.
Okay.
We're hillbillies. We don't. I mean,
you're in the center of the state. You can't just walk over to Illinois or Kansas.
So we have to do. It's our form of civil disobedience. We're the Gandhi of sports betting. Give me a prediction right now. Does this pass into law? Do the voters vote to change the IP process? I'll start. I vote no.
Vote no. I don't know. I don't know if it gets there. We'll see how it goes. It still has to go through the House.
Okay, let's assume this gets to the ballot without a bunch of the.
I'm going to say no. If it stays the way it is, I'm going to say it's going to.
Kelton, what do you think?
Well, I think no.
So I would say 57% no. If you add some distractions, you could cut into that.
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm saying 57. I won't put you on the spot. Over under 57% no.
I think it also depends on if there's something else on the ballot.
Let's say it stays just like it passed the Senate today.
Yeah.
What is it? 57%? Am I over under?
I think you're going to be probably closer to 55.
Good under. That might be right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a couple other things. So there were some senators who I guess were channeling their inner representative and started talking about PQs today. Is there a worse thing for the state of Missouri than to break the Senate and just smear shit on it and do a PQ?
I came in the Senate at a time when I wasn't here, when I've heard really good stories about the Senate. And to me, it's disheartening to watch what's happened to it, to sit there and just even committee meetings and watch how they change what they're going to do and just things that were so house-like, and it's unfortunate. And I think the PQ it should be a last resort, and a PQ in February, I don't think anybody understands what the ramifications of that would be. I
think Cinderella Laughlin just put her foot down.
Yeah,
and said, "I'm the floor leader here. This is where we're going to go."
Well, we have a lot of people that came over from the house, and you've been in the house. I mean, PQs have already, you drink a cup of coffee, you get PQ'd 12 times, right? Sure. I mean, so they don't know what it's like in the Senate. I haven't experienced one yet. I've heard stories. I trust that that's the case.
Well, I mean, let me give you a little history.
It's pandemonium.
I wrote a column about what the curse of the PQ, right to work, was PQ'd. How'd that go, Doug? Is that law today?
There's actually a whole lot of things that got PQ that never became law.
There was something about gay people making a cake or something that was PQ'd. It never even made it out of the House.
And what did it do the rest of the session too?
100%. I will never forget. I think Joe Kevany held the floor and stayed on Thursday, and every Republican sat in their chair and listened to Joe Kevany rail on them till about 4:00 on Thursday. Nobody complained because they knew they'd done something wrong.
And I got to give a shout out to my former Senator Scott Faughn, who did a fantastic job when it came to filibusters and knowing the rules and doing all the things he did.
You had big shoes to fill, man.
He is.
There was one about concurrent jurisdiction. The House didn't. The House didn't even take it up. They gabbled in and gabbled out.
I remember that story. You want me to tell you the funny part about that one? So, Vescovo and myself I'm not going to say we're friends at all.
You've never been picked up by him in an Uber?
No, never picked up in an Uber. He'd probably try to run me over. But
now he's a lobbyist, big time lobbyist.
Figures. But he said to me that day, he goes, "Well, we're not going to do this. They could just do this. What if they're in charge? You can just do that to us then." And I thought that was pretty smart for him to say.
I agree. I actually agree with that.
And so I was like, okay, we agree. We agreed on something. And I will say he helped me too when we pulled up. Actually, I just seen Peggy Snyder was in the building today.
Tell that story.
So when I first ran in 2016, October 6th of 2016, Officer Blake Snyder was fatally shot to death while answering a call, and it was just the entire district became yellow ribbons and everything is like right there in Afton, and it was a horrible, heartbreaking thing. And anyway, we fast forward, we went through the right to work years, and in 2018, I had an opportunity. I wanted to name the part of the road that went by the Afton Police Department, the building. I wanted to name that after Blake Snyder, and I went to. So I'm going to give bipartisan love here. I went to Todd Richardson. I said, Todd, I'd really like to get this passed. I don't want this to be a part of 50 other naming things. I want this to be a single bill that I can give to these folks, and this is the least we can, And he helped me usher through, and so did Vescovo, and we got it through, and it came out unanimously through. And I'm on a super minority, and it came out unanimously with my name on it, which wasn't what I was trying to do, but I wanted it to be an individual bill, and went over to the Senate, got a little rocky in the beginning. It was supposed to be consent, and somebody voted against it, had a conversation with them, and it went unanimously through the Senate afterwards. Scott Faughn carried it for me, and it became law, and we had a big dedication for the family. But I will say Peggy and Dick Snyder are just two of the salt of the earth, best people you'd ever want to meet, and she's been involved. And
you get in these fights about things that IP reform that regular people could care less about.
Yeah.
Boy, that's something you could actually do something nice for somebody. That boy, if you could do something nice for someone, boy, they earned it, right?
And now they've built it. So last year I had the sign moved down a little bit towards Sappington Road because they're building a new police station where I was there for the groundbreaking, and it's got Blake Snyder's name on it, and so it's it's pretty emotional.
I've been down that road. I know what we're talking about.
It doesn't bring him back, but people that are great people like that serve
something nice you can do for people that. What a great thing.
That's the best. I mean, it's the least I could do. But I can't say enough what a great person she is, and Dick, and they're both to endure this and still be involved. They're trying to get both police stations. There's one going in North County that they're helping with, and they're Illinois residents, and they're coming over to do it. So just great people, and it's things like that make this job worthwhile sometimes, that you're able to do something like that.
Well, let's talk about politics now. Going forward. Well, let's go back. The PQ. There's some folks that speculate you might consider running for leader. of the Democrat caucus next session.
Mhm.
How do you view the PQ?
I think it's I don't think it's a good way to do business. Right? You know, I mean,
But there is a role for the minority in not having that, right?
yeah. There's you know, I think. Well, I'll just be flat out honest with you, Scott. I mean, if we pulled the stunts that have been pulled over the last 3 years I've been in that Senate, the PQ would have been used on us already. If we did the exact same
I think
things,
that's very fair.
it would have been used as if we would have held up governor's appointments for a month,
Mhm.
that we would have been PQ'd. They would all got together and they would have. But we're reasonable. We're adults. We're reasonable people. We get it. We know there's lines. We try to do what we can.
And the fact is, the Republicans did win a supermajority of the seats.
Yeah.
I mean, the people spoke, and that on that particular election they won. So there is something to be said for that. But I always thought, the PQ usually is the majority party immaturely and reflexively throwing a temper tantrum. But sometimes it's the minority, maybe not. I mean, there's a right mix of that cocktail, right?
Yeah.
And the minority has a role to play. And I think Senator Rizzo, one of the greatest things you can say about Senator Rizzo is he hasn't had a PQ, right? What a tremendous compliment to him.
Yeah, no, and JJ's been a great leader. I mean, he's so underrated, and I could go on, but sometimes on any given day, he was actually, well, until this year, he was actually running the Senate, you know, and he was making things happen and do things.
Who's running the state Senate right now?
I don't know. Today it may have shifted back a little bit, but I would say for a while it's been Bill Eigel and his crew. I mean, they've been very, very successful. You know, and I'm an honest guy. But,
well, hey, I sit in the peanut gallery. I don't get to hear your conversation.
But you hear things on the floor when somebody says, "Hey, if you let me bring these forward, these are nominations, and we get to go forward with them. If you let me do that, who's got the power?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, this is simple. I listen, I watch, I do whatever, and you know, but that may have changed a little bit today. We'll see as we go forward. We don't know what the issues are. I try to, as you know, Scott, I try to get along with everybody. I've had great conversations with my Republican colleagues on this, and the vast majority of them said they don't want this. Their people don't even want IP.
Last year, Cindy O'Loughlin ran the Senate. I think you could fairly look. The Senate's not made to be ran by anybody. So she was a leader.
Let me go back on that. Yeah. I was hesitant when Cindy first got in there. I was a little nervous. Cindy and I got along really well last year. She did a great job last year, and I've told her that numerous times. I consider her a friend. I respect her. I totally respect her. We've worked our things out. She knows that I'll work to try to come to a solution. If I can't come to a solution, then I can't. But I try to do that, and I think she respects that. She also holds her word, and we've done some things. So I totally respect her, and I think her as a friend and a colleague. I try to give her a hug every time I can. You know,
my feeling is the chamber. Senator Eigel came in ready to throw down. I was at a fundraiser. He had a tremendous fundraiser in St. Louis. Really successful. And he
I think you mentioned. I've seen that on one of your.
Absolutely, I was there. It was. Yeah. I mean, it was. People that think he's not a serious candidate for governor aren't paying attention. Bill Eigel would absolutely win that race, and an event like that was just another proof of that. But he said, "Look, I'm coming in January to make things happen, and I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to be. I'm going to throw sand in the gears right off." And he did. And I thought there was a point in it where they were like, "We're going to pass these folks." And then when Senator Hageman's nomination was put in that pile, I think everybody decided, no, we're getting this done. And then this started again. And I think today Senator O'Loughlin decided, I don't think Senator Searpoy did that on a lark. I think that was a coordinated move, probably by a lot of senators in that room to bring this to an end. And I, successfully, I do think you'll fight it out. That's fair. Mm-hmm. And we'll see what happens with the House. I mean, I could see a scenario where the House adds the ballot candy and they PQ that at the end of session. But in February, I don't think that was going to happen. I think she reasserted herself today. But my guess is tomorrow at 1, I mean, if I'm Senator Eigel and I've been able to get attention and
curious what we're doing tomorrow. I have no idea.
Well, I mean, but if you're Senator Eigel, won't you just pull the next thing out and say, I want to do this now? And nothing can happen until we do this. But why wouldn't you?
I think
you laid over bills that matter a lot more to regular Missourians.
You laid over 9 bills. You went to a Planned Parenthood bill, and then it got later. Then you went to IP, and this is what he said he wanted to do. He wanted to be IP to be the first thing, the Republican priority on the floor, and he was successful in getting that done.
So,
I don't know if the results are what he wanted, but he was successful in having that.
But if you're Senator Eigel, I mean, look, people act out of their own self-interest, right? If you're Senator Eigel, why don't you just say, okay, now we're going to do whatever the next thing you want to do is, right? Why wouldn't you?
I would expect because it's successful. If it works, why would you change tactics?
That's my point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say tomorrow he picks the next thing you're going to do. Let's talk about some campaigns. Do you have an opponent yet?
I try not to talk about that.
There's only 17 of these. I think folks know. Your district, I don't think you could have been beat regardless, but I think the new district you have, let's be honest, it's more Democratic.
No, it actually got a little bit more Republican.
I thought they put like all Webster Groves and stuff in there.
No, I had all Webster Groves. I just was missing the north part, but I had everything around Webster Groves. Yeah. So I had Maplewood and Brentwood.
I've been to Maplewood. They look like Democrats.
Yeah, they are. And I lost all that area. And
you lost it.
And then
I gained down. They look a little Republican.
Yeah, I'll spend a lot of time in Oakville trying to change hearts and minds down there.
You're going to win your race. Yeah. You look around, you're going to win Boone County.
Yeah, I believe so.
So then Steve Weber, tell folks about him. I think he's a great guy.
He is. He's a great candidate.
Senator.
He ran, great race back in 2016. And when I first ran actually my race, and he just got edged out a little bit by Caleb, Caleb is a very good politician, right? And
I mean, Stephen Weber is on an impressive list of people Caleb Rowden's beat. I mean, he has beat a lot of serious folks.
And you think about it, Stephen could have came back in 4 years and probably challenged him again if he wanted to. And it might have been a different story, maybe. I don't know. But at the end of the day, he didn't, and he waited, and he did.
Let's look at this. So you're at 10 now. Your seat, it'd be one that could be competitive, but let's be honest, probably not. Then you move over, and Stephen Weber will put you at 11.
Yep.
But then you've got the most competitive general election in the state. It's going to be an independence, Senator Rizzo's district. Been trending Republican more and more. Trump does well in independence.
But we got a candidate over there.
You got Robbie Sauls, representative, running against. So Aaron McMullen's a very impressive guy, veteran, has a primary though. Yeah. Joe Nicola, he ran a hell of a race against Searpoy. And I thought it was interesting though. I thought if he waited until Searpoy's seat in the 8th was up again, Nicola would probably be the front runner.
Yeah.
But because he did very well in Lee Summit, but he actually lives in the independent seat, so he's going to run this time all the way up there.
Yeah.
Tall order, right? And I've had to guess. I mean, McMullen's a very good candidate. That mustache is nice, right? I mean, so he's the favorite to win the primary. But Nicola's serious. If you didn't take Nicola seriously, Nicola could win.
There's also another guy, David Wright, in that race too. So there's
helps McMullen.
Yeah.
But let's say McMullen has to spend most of his money on the primary. So you're coming in with Rob. What will Robbie have in the bank?
Robbie will be good. He's going to do his thing. He's actually
he's doing his doors.
He's going to do doors. He's
going
to
to
raise
ask
money.
Victor Callahan. He'll know.
Yeah, he's going to do his doors. He's going to raise his money, and
he raising his money now.
He's raising money now. He's been doing a good job. He's doing what he can do at this point.
You're going to have to go raise a chunk of that money, though, right?
We're going to support Robbie the best we can. He's a great candidate. I live with him here in Jeff City, and the one thing I want to tell you about it, you mentioned Trump. Robbie has outperformed Trump in that area, and he's beat Trump by 5 points in his own district. We feel that's a recipe for success, that he will win that district. He's going to win it. He fits that area. Independence. Trump, he's also a veteran too, and currently serving.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he's currently serving, and that's part of the story. That's
JAG Corps, Marine.
He's a JAG, and he goes a JAG officer, and kind of like Steve Roberts.
Yeah,
but he does his time, and and up here, and he tries to go fit that all in. The 2 weeks he's got to do, and here and there and whatever, and but he's going to work hard. He's my friend, and he's a good guy, very very well. He's articulate, and he's very he's just a good human being, and he's going to win that seat.
But you're going to have to raise the money, the heavy lift, right?
I'm not going to have to raise money. He's doing it himself, and he's putting the pressure on him. Everybody's got to.
Your Senate caucus is going to have to put in money, right?
Well, I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
And if anybody's listening, yes, we're definitely going to help him as much as we can. He's also going to help himself.
Sure.
We have goals all set for all of our own people to raise money and do what they got to do.
Are they doing it?
Yes.
Well, they'd have a goal. Are they doing it though?
They're doing it.
What's it cost to win that race? What is that? The 13?
I think at the end of the day, we expect Robbie to be coming in, unfortunately, for a $38,000 seat, coming in about $1 million himself, and then whatever other money's going to be in there. Because as you know,
so it takes $2 million to win that seat.
Probably.
That's an expensive media market.
Well, in my race in 2020, we spent 1.2 million. So it's like,
What would you win
that's
by?
what
Though?
it
You
is.
win by it.
Yeah. Well, but when you win, you win. You know, you got to win.
All right, so let's talk about a couple other races folks might not know, but I don't want to keep you.
Yeah.
You've been up all night.
I'm good.
The 15th in Chesterfield, you have the county councilman Mark Hardy, you got the mayor of Wildwood in that. You got David Gregory, someone everybody watching this will know. He is killing it on fundraising, but you got a guy.
Is he killing it?
Yeah, Gregory's.
I think he lent himself 200,000, but I don't know. I haven't seen the money.
Well, you know, that's okay. If it's lent, that's one thing. But walk me back here. The candidate you have is a guy that I bet you folks might not know, but he's got a good background.
Super excited about him. Joe Peerless. He's running in the 15th.
Former jury executive.
He was a jury's chief counsel.
Now, Joe, what's his name?
Peerless.
Peerless
is his motto. The way it's spelled, it doesn't look like Peerless, but it's a good motto. That way, you know his name is Peerless. Great candidate. I've known him for a while. He's helped in my race before. Just we couldn't ask for a better candidate for that area.
So if I had to guess, Robbie Sauls would rather Donald Trump not be the Republican nominee, rather be Nikki Haley or somebody. Joe Peerless would love Donald Trump to be the nominee and hopes he stays, right?
Yeah, that might be the case, and I think Donald Trump's going to be the nominee. I also think that Donald Trump doesn't have the same luster he did 4 years ago, and the same luster he had 4 years.
But I think Donald Trump polls better than another Republican in independents, and I think he polls worse than another Republican in Chesterfield. Am I wrong?
That's a true statement.
So Peerless, I hear he's raising money.
Yes, he's raising money. He's been doing a bang up job raising money. He's great. He's probably he's probably almost halfway to where he needs to be. Yeah. I mean, he's getting there.
It's been. I guess I didn't know Mr. Peerless. I don't know him, but I've been shocked at the fundraising he's done.
Yeah, he's done a great job. He's done everything we've asked him to do. He's kind of unknown in our side of the thing because he at one point was a Republican, but he's basically said the Republican Party's left him, and this is where he is, and he wants to do this. So
the gun issue. I mean, look, I hate to say this, but frankly, I would think an independence is a place where they probably are generally pro Second Amendment, but some of the stuff that's like the shooting at the parade. I mean, you have people that have always been, that own guns that are pro Second Amendment. They're like, okay, maybe we're a little far out here, right? I think Chesterfield will be the type of place where the gun issue favors the Democrats.
Pretty much all of St. Louis County, even Oakville.
Independence, same way. I think a little less than
Independence. I think independence. I think if you asked, I think if you went around, because I haven't done this, but if you went door to door and you asked people, say, hey, what would you accept? Are you okay with, do you feel like
or does it start off? Are you pro gun or pro gun control? Say I'm pro gun. What about the assault rifles? I'm not that pro gun, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could ask those questions. Do you think we should have maybe background checks?
Yeah.
Do you think it's okay for me to be able to go out in the parking lot and sell you all my guns and there's no paperwork and we just walk away and we wash our hands of the deal? I don't think most people want that.
To me, the what I know of the shooting in Kansas City, there's not much you could have done. It wasn't like this was some guy out. There were kids that got in a fight. Should they have had guns there? No. Should that be illegal? Probably. Would a law or more cops? I'm not sure that situation. I just think it adds to the overall, okay, we have a gun problem, right? I think that adds to the people saying, okay, there's a problem with guns. Yeah. And they don't think about it much deeper than that. But it is an interesting thing. Tell me about the St. Charles race. So if you were ranking these, right, top priority, you probably have Boone County 1. So you're at 10. To move up to 11, you got to hold Independence, probably the top priority. Yeah. Then Chesterfield.
Hold the 17th. Maggie, we had another great candidate over there.
Maggie doesn't have a problem, right?
Well, I mean, it's a tight district. I mean, we're not taking anything for granted. That's the one thing we got to do here.
The energy my son has. And I look at Maggie and I'm like, the only person I know with the energy Gussie has is Maggie. That woman, she's a very impressive person. She's going to be a senator.
In both of those seats, I want to say this, J.J. Rizzo and Lauren Arthur are two great people, and they're really big. You talked about big shoes to fill. Both of those folks are just
but as a amazing candidate. Maggie
taught me so many things.
Is everything you'd want, right?
She'll be great, but
she'll win.
But at the end of the day,
she'll win.
We're not taking anything for granted. We're going to win.
I'm going to take for granted you win and she wins. I'm going to take kind of almost for granted that Stephen Weber wins. Robbie Sauls.
Well, Stephen's got a better district than both of us.
Yeah, that's right. So then you move over to Chesterfield. You got a good candidate raising good money.
I think he's going to win.
Trump probably helps you. It's going to be competitive, right? It depends on who you get on the other side. That'll shape that race a lot, right?
I think it will. Yeah, and we don't know who that is. And that's the other thing is there's a lot of these primaries. They have a lot of primaries. They're going to burn up resources. They're going to have to go to the right to win.
David Gregory won't have $1 left after the primary.
They're going to have to move, even if they're a mainstream candidate, They're going to have to move to the right to win.
So then it feels like it's a little bit more of a reach to go get that St. Charles County seat. A lot of North County labor guys are moving over to St. Charles. The city of St. Charles is trending more Democrat, but it feels like you have a better shot in Chesterfield than St. Charles. Am I wrong?
So it depends on the candidate. So I think it's a different candidate than we have in West County. If we have the
Tell me
right
about the
candidate.
candidate. I don't know.
Well, that's another whole thing.
Okay.
So we're not 100% on that yet, but
JFK Jr. back behind the curtain here.
Well, there's
But
some
it's
things out there.
if you're ranking, if you're in the whiteboard in Democrat headquarters, your priorities are obviously you and Maggie's race by it, and Stephen. Then you gotta hold Rizzo with Robbie. Then you'd go Peerless in the 15th, and then you'd go the 23rd with your mystery candidate.
Well, I think if you look at the numbers wise, Trudy Bush Valentine lost by 1.7 points in both the 23rd and the 15th.
Really?
Yes. So we're very, very competitive in those areas.
Sure.
If you look at the numbers that were posed against
She's a good
Bill
person,
Eigel
isn't she?
from a Democratic candidate that didn't have the resources, and I'm just going to be nice about it.
Trudy Bush Valentine was a good person.
She was a great person. She had a great heart. There's nobody I know that had a better heart than maybe it's the nurse aspect of it. But when I met her, when she was getting better as she went on.
She knew she was going to lose.
Yeah.
But she put more of her own money into the end to help pull other people like Ashley Honey across. And I thought that showed a lot of character.
Yeah. No, she was great to meet her, and it was a good experience.
But
if
win
we
St. Charles,
so if we have and
what if Phil Crispinelli is the nominee?
I think
Phil's going to be tough to beat.
I think we win because it's the most unionized district in the state, and whoever we would run,
don't vote Democrat half the time.
They have never had their own person to vote for. So what if they got an own union member to vote for?
Sure. No, I think that matters. Look,
what if it's a guy who's got name?
You can't be beaten the first, but another Democrat could maybe be beat. But you're a union guy. You also, I think sometimes Democrats get into this identity politics stuff. Old white guys have a pretty good track record of winning votes in this state. I mean, that gray hair, your hand, when you shake your hand, you've worked for a living. It feels like a man who's worked. I think union folks respect that. Yeah. I was at this bar on my F-150 tour when you're running for Senate. And I tell the story. I stop in and I meet this lady who's smoking inside.
The clubhouse. So you might as well give them
I was at the clubhouse.
Right.
And she must have owned it or ran it or something, because I don't think you can smoke in there. And I come over and ask her, I said, yeah, I'm, what? And I had my little notebook. And she goes, you're not in the media, are you? I hate the media. I'm like, well, I am, but the media hates me more than, except for Trump, maybe more than anybody. So trust me, you can Google me. The media hates me. So she's like, well, if the media hates you, then all right, fine. So we sit there for a second, and I was like, let me ask you, what do you think about these elections? She goes, I'm voting for Trump. I'm tired of being called racist and all these things. I'm sick of it. And I'm voting for Trump. And I was like, well, what about Congress? She said, well, I'm going to vote for Ann. I'll vote for Ann. Then I'm leaving. So what about Doug Begg? Oh, Doug. I'm definitely voting for Doug Begg. He named the street after the police officer. And I go, well, all right. So you're voting for Trump and Ann. Then you go, Doug, he's not like them. And she would that woman would vote for you 10 times. So the 23rd, there's a real shot there.
Yeah, there's a real shot there. I think with the right candidate, and we think we have the right, but it's not all final. So I don't want to get into that. And maybe we'll know Tuesday. You know what I mean? So
can Crystal Quade be governor?
It's tough. I think she has a path. I think if there's a path,
she'd be a damn fine governor if she won.
I think she'd be great. I mean, I really think she'd be great. But I think if you have a Eigel/Ashcroft, I think that increases her opportunity to win.
Let me ask you this: you're gonna if you run stand for leadership and you're successful, let's say it's a good night for Democrats, which is very plausible right now.
I would love to be at 13 senators come. That would be really nice.
But I mean, let's just split the baby. So let's say you have a good headwind, you hold Robbie, then you pick up one of the two on the eastern side, right? I'll put you at 12. You flip the page to 24. If John Patterson doesn't run in the 8th, you have a real chance to pick that up with Carrie Engel. Then if Crystal Quade were to not be done with politics, I mean, she's Mrs. Sprinkles. You got a damn cape somewhere. Yeah. Melody Sinette's a hell of a candidate on the Republican side, but if you come out of these elections with 12, you've got a clear shot at 14.
Yeah, you have 14, and quite frankly, it's not quite out of reach. As the other one, Luke DeMeyer's seat is I know it's tough, but you can make a play there. It depends on who they have. If they don't get a middle of the road decent candidate like a Brenda Shields, who knows what happened.
Amazingly tough to beat. But yes, I agree with you.
But does she get out of the primary?
If she doesn't,
and you watched how things have gone lately,
sure. So I mean, I don't think Brenda Shields.
I like Brenda Shields. Her and I get along really well.
I think she's just a quality human being. So if during your time, if you were to be floor leader next January, You have 12 senators. That changes the dynamic. It's 22 to 12.
Yeah.
With a clear shot at 14. Now, 20 to 14, that's a different Senate, right?
It's a big time difference. And I think you're involved in different decisions.
I think the quality of legislation authored by Republicans, the quality of public policy would increase 20 to 14 than 24 to 10.
Yeah, no. And last 3 years, Scott, they've needed Democrats to just pass a budget.
Going to again for sure, right?
So what does that make? What does that make it look like? There's other decisions that would have to be made.
I've taken more of your time than I asked for. First, I can't let you leave without making a little thing here.
Uh-oh.
I was honored to get to become a Missouri Co-op honorary lineman.
Nice.
from the co-op guys. Got my name on it here. I want to thank everybody at the Co-op Association. This is an honor. There will be a place for this in here. I don't exactly know where yet, but by next week we will have an absolute. We will have it on, and I got to give you this. Speaking of co-ops, you've approved a lot of money for rural broadband, and I, on behalf of folks all over the state, we thank you. You got to take this yete from you now to let your co-op.
Well,
you can always feel good about that money. They're doing such a good job up there in Savannah. They want them to come into St. Joseph.
Okay.
Then when you come to Jeff City, right, someone's going to meet with you. They want to ask you for your support on something, and they tell you where they're staying. I mean, where did they stay at? Where you'll know, okay, this guy knows what they're talking about. This is a pro.
Where do they stay at?
Yeah. What hotel?
Oh, well, I would say at the Marriott.
Yeah,
if I had a
Courtyard
chance.
Marriott.
If you can get in.
If you can get in. Randolph, you got to have add another tower to that thing or something. I mean, I constantly have people coming up to me. I used to do a thing where I'd pay the difference and you'd buy me a beer. Now I get inundated with text messages, Mark, people wanting rooms. And I text Randolph. He's like, we're full. I'm like, I know you're full, but here I am telling people how great you are, and I can't get them in. So, Senator, thank you so much for staying up all night. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
It's great.
We will see you Sunday. I'll be back. Thanks to Hannah Beers for hosting last week. Went to Disneyland. It was great. I'll be back with you Sunday. I'll be back with you tomorrow, right, Kelton?
I think that's the plan.
We're going to talk a little 3rd District at 11 o'clock tomorrow with Taylor Burks. Come join us.